Hey there, my lovely English learners. I'm Akash, your English coach, and today I've got a fascinating lesson for you. 10 better alternatives to replace the strong phrase, "You are wrong." Now, sometimes you might find yourself in a situation where you strongly disagree with someone, but you want to express your point of view in a more positive and constructive manner. That's where this English lesson will help you a lot. Now, these alternatives will not only help you maintain a positive relationship, but also have respectful communication. So, if you're ready to upgrade your communication skills and learn how to disagree gracefully, watch this lesson until the end. So, come on, let's get started. The first alternative to "you're wrong" is, "I see what you mean." I see what you mean. Now, this is an idiom and it conveys understanding and agreement with someone's point of view, even if you do not necessarily agree with it. Now, it's a nice way to show empathy and respect, and you're open to the conversation for further discussion. This phrase avoids direct confrontation or disagreement. Let's look at some example sentences. "I see what you mean about wanting more time to finish the project." Now, instead of saying, No, you're wrong. You don't need more time." Instead, you could use this phrase. Next is, "I see what you mean about your concerns regarding the budget," which means I'm showing empathy that you have concerns about the budget. "I see what you mean when you say blue color would be a better choice." Now, again, instead of saying, No, you're wrong, the blue color won't suit, you're trying to being more empathetic towards the person. So after these sentences, you could always add your point of view as well. It keeps the conversation open for more discussion. Before we move to the next phrase, I've got something important to share with you. If you want to learn English step by step and take your English from the basic A1 level to the advanced C1 level and become a fluent English speaker, we have some amazing English courses. These are self-study programs which can be taken anytime, anywhere, at your own convenience. The link for these courses is available in the description, or you could read the first comment on this video. These courses are beautifully crafted along with a lot of practice exercises and downloadable study material. Visit the course link and watch sample videos to get an understanding of how these courses will help you achieve your fluency goal. Now, going back to the lesson, let's look at our next phrase. Here's the next one. "I see it differently." Now, when you say "I see it differently," you're telling them that you have a different way of looking at things. It's a more polite and a friendly way to express that you don't agree with them without making the other person feel bad. Shall we look at some example sentences? Now, imagine a friend saying, "Ink blue suit is the best." Now, if you like gray better, you can say, "I see it differently. I think gray is the best." Now, a second situation. In college, a classmate says, "Math is so easy, but you find it really hard." In that scenario, you can say, "You know what? I see it differently. Math is a bit challenging for me. It might be easy for you." Now, in an office situation, a co-worker suggests a new idea and you don't agree with that. Now, instead of saying "you're wrong," you can say, "I see it differently. I think there might be a better way to do it." On these better ways to communicate instead of getting into a conflict, let's look at the next one. Let's consider another angle. I really love this phrase. Now, when you say, let's consider another angle, you're suggesting that there might be a different way to look at the situation or a problem. It's a more respectful way to show that you have a different opinion. Here are some example sentences. I know we've been focusing on social media marketing, but let's consider a different angle. So instead of saying, no, you're wrong when you're suggesting social media marketing, you're saying, let's consider a different angle. Here's another example. Before we make a final decision, let's consider a different angle and gather inputs from our customer service team. Right? Let's look at one more example. While the current design is good, let's consider a different angle to make it more readable. Don't you think these are better ways to communicate at your workplace? Well, with that, let's move on to the next alternative. I may have a different take on this. Now, this phrase is used to express that one has an alternate viewpoint regarding a particular topic, situation, or an issue. So instead of saying you're wrong, which is harsh, you're offering an opinion or solution to a problem. Isn't that great? Come on, let's take a look at some example sentences. It's an interesting movie, but I may have a different take on the ending. So someone is saying that this movie was great, the ending was great, but you're saying I have a different take on it. Here's another one. We all have unique experiences, so it's natural that I may have a different take on the situation. What a well-crafted example. Here's one more. I've been studying this topic for a while, so I may have a different take on it than you, right? Again, it's a great way to disagree with someone. Try using these phrases, and why don't you try making sentences along with these phrases in the comments? They will help you to remember, that's one. Second, it will give you a good practice, and you'll remember these phrases in your conversation. Let's look at the next one. It's an interesting point, but, and then you will continue what you want to say. Now, this is again a polite and a constructive way to acknowledge someone's perspective or argument, while also indicating that you have a different counterpoint to offer. Here's how you can use this phrase in examples. So, for example, designer A says, I suggest using bright colors for the website's background to make it visually more appealing. Designer B disagrees with that and he says, it's an interesting point, but we should consider our target audience preference. They might prefer pastel colors for a professional and a serious tone, right? So again, you have a disagreement between two designers, but look at the language, the way it's used, right? Instead of saying you're wrong, which can create conflicts. This really helps to be more respectful and helps the conversation to go on. Moving on to the next one. I'm not sure I agree. Now, this phrase again is a polite and a constructive way to express disagreement while explaining your reason or providing an alternative option or a perspective. Here are some examples. Family member A says, we should have a big family reunion this year. Where family member B disagrees and says, I'm not sure I agree, because it might be challenging to coordinate everyone's schedules and not everyone may be comfortable with a large gathering. So what's happening here? You're disagreeing, but also giving a reason why a reunion is not a great idea. Okay? Moving on to the next phrase, and the phrase is, I'd like to explore another opinion. Now, this is a diplomatic and a constructive way to say, hey, you're wrong, but you're saying it in an indirect way by being diplomatic. Let's look at some examples. I'll give you a situation. Husband says, we should go with a marble top for the kitchen. Or the wife says, I'd like to explore another option. What if we use quartz or granite stone to create a unique style? Now the wife is right here because a granite stone or quartz will last longer as the kitchen is quite a busy area. And the most important part of any house, and sometimes a kitchen can be messy too, right? But focus on what a unique way to disagree with someone. Let's move on to the next one. Have we considered a different approach? Right? What a great phrase. Have we considered a different approach? Now, it's a way to ask if there's another way to do things without saying your idea is wrong. It's about exploring options and finding the best one, which will lead to a productive discussion. Let's look at some examples. Our current method of solving the issue isn't working. Have we considered a different approach to tackle the problem? Here's another example. You've been following the same routine for years. Have you considered a different approach to live a healthier lifestyle? Right? Such a nice way to tell someone your lifestyle is not great, it's not healthy. I think it's time you change it, but in a more diplomatic and a more respectful manner. With that, we come to the end of today's lesson. Weren't these great English phrases to politely disagree with someone? Do use them in your conversation. Remember, communication is all about showing respect and empathy. And I'm sure if you use these phrases, even if you're disagreeing with someone, you will come across as a more polite person. I hope you really enjoyed this lesson. I'm going to see you soon with one more amazing English lesson. Until then, keep learning and keep practicing English. Happy learning!